lang. Okay, I think we are now recording. Franz, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay. All right. So this is supposedly the April edition of the Book Lovers Club, but we've been busy during the last days of April. So yeah, we're doing this in the first half of May, which is fine because we usually do the assigned readings on the, how do you say this, the towards the end of the month. So yeah, hopefully we can do the next one towards the end of May. But yeah, right now we have like one assigned readings, which is of course, let me show it here. I have like a hard copy. One of my favorite modern sci-fi authors. So the collection is called Stories of Your Life and Others, which is of course, it carries the title story, which is of course a story of your life without how do you say this? Without the plural. Okay, story of your life, and then some other short stories. So I've got this. So you know, France, the tendency with the bookstores here in the Philippines, where they usually revive copies of books the moment movies are made out of them, right?
Yeah.
And so like I think the movie of this one came out in like 2016. I've been hunting for like even fully book, and National Bookstore for a copy of Stories of Your Life, because this collection itself was published in 2002, right? And then
So
it's nowhere to be seen. But then when the movie Arrival arrived, right? And then of course it says, it's based on the short story. And then the
yeah.
tendency, right? Like if Dune, when there's a movie about Dune, then there you see a lot of Dune books. There's like a series about, I don't know, Game of Thrones or The Wheel of Time. Then that's the time you see these books cropping up. And yeah, it's one of my pet peeves. I hate I hate my books that
Base
carry
base
the
promotion.
title of the movie, right? Yeah, but yeah, this is not the worst, because you see some other books where they really contain the cover of the
Yeah.
movie cover itself. Yeah, that's even
The
worse,
poster.
but yeah, exactly, the poster, that's worse. But yeah, in fact, this is not so bad, but I would have preferred without this, the original. But still, at least they still went with the original copy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so Ted Chiang, like I said, is one of my favorite modern authors. He writes a very good sci-fi stories. His latest one, the next to this one, is it's actually 2019. So this is 2002. This is 2019. This is Exhalation. So
Nice.
maybe in the future, yeah, we'll pick some stories from here. But as you can see, yeah, he writes a very good short stories, as we'll be discussing now. One of these novellas is in here, but as you can see, he's not that prolific. It's like these are his two works so far. Like in his like he doesn't have a novel. Like yeah, he has these
Yeah.
two short stories, but very amazing short story collections. But yeah, like I said, yeah, he's not very prolific. Yeah, so yeah, typically I think, yeah, starting February, France, right? Like we've been discussing two, but here we'll
Yeah.
only be discussing one, the story of your life, because it's fairly long, because it's actually a novella. In fact, I think in 1998 or 1999, I couldn't remember, but it's somewhere towards the tail end of the 1990s. Story of Your Life won the, if I'm not mistaken, a Nebula award for a best novella of that year. And then for Hugo, it was like one of the nominees. It was like nominated for some other awards. It won two. I forgot the other one. Maybe it's the Theodore Sturgeon Award. But yeah, for the other instances of the other famous award is the Hugo, right? Hugo and the Locus Award for Science and Fantasy. Both cases, it was given to Oceanic by Greg Egan. So I haven't read that, so but now it made me curious. Like there's a story that could from the eyes of Hugo and Locus could defeat story of your life. But yeah, Nebula, they gave the award in 1998. So it's a fairly classic story. So Franz, yeah, when you were reading it, like did you like search when it was written, or did it feel like a story written like in 1998? Or
No, I think um for me it before I look at the background,
yeah,
it feels much modern. I think post 2000, it feels post 2000s rather than before
yeah,
2000.
that was my yeah that was I was so surprised as well. Like it felt very, very recent, right? Like something that you could read in a
Yeah.
modern era. But how do you say this? Yeah, I was really surprised when I look at it, and then it was written in like 1998. But yeah, I think we should dive right into the so as usual, before we go into the full discussion, we'll have like a some sort of a non-spoilery section where we sell to people who haven't read the story of your life. Like how would you sell this, France, to someone who hasn't read the story, and then like how would you advertise it to them, you know?
I think the a brief summary would sell it to sci-fi lovers.
Mm,
Because yeah, if we summarize it, um, it's about uh aliens coming to Earth. So though we had many other works about that, but this one
yeah,
is
yeah.
quite unique because aliens coming to Earth, they in this story of your life, they actually go through the process of communicating with the I mean learning how to communicate with the aliens. So we have a linguist, I forgot her name.
I think it's Louis, Dr. Louis Banks, I
Yeah,
think.
Louis Banks and
Yeah, I can
with
look at it very quickly, yeah, but I think yeah, it's Banks, Dr. Banks.
yeah, Dr. Banks.
Yeah, yeah.
And the physicist, both of
Yeah,
them were, but
Louis Banks.
the main liaison was Dr. Louis Banks. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's about these aliens. They call them heptapods because they have 7 limbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 limbs, and they call them heptapods. And they arrived to Earth. And yeah, of course, the first thing people would do would be try to communicate with them because all throughout these years, as we've watched movies, mostly we are always
Yeah.
outclassed in
First con
technology.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we always try to
The, like first contact seems so easy, right? Like the typical
yeah,
alien story, right?
yeah,
Like,
the
oh, okay,
typical,
we come in peace, or
like
okay,
the
we come to
Martian,
conquer.
the
Yeah, yeah,
Martian,
yeah, yeah. Exactly, yeah. Or something like War of the Worlds or something like
yeah,
that. Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But War of the Worlds was like more on invasion, so I think they.
Mm,
But this one, the aliens didn't do any hostile moves towards the humans, so they had uh, the humans also tried a more peaceful approach, and thus, yeah, we come to this story of your life with the linguist, Dr. Lewis, and the physicist trying to figure out how best they can communicate with the aliens and figure out what they were after in Earth or why they came here.
yeah,
So that's
exactly. But yeah, it's yeah, that's like the open premise, but yeah, it's way, more subtle than that. Especially like
yeah,
the title itself. Like
they
a
would.
story of your life, like whose
It's
life
like
or something. Yeah.
it's like it's like when you eat uh let's say it's like when you eat a chocolate let's say any chocolate eclair, then you find out that it has another chocolate sauce inside.
Mm.
So it's like that
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
you
yeah. It's
think
like
that chocolate eclair was already good, but when you bite into it, there's something better also inside.
yeah,
What
there's a hidden layer. Yeah.
that's what this story feels like.
Mm, yeah. So I think, yeah, so with that, if you haven't read it, this is the time, the section where we're gonna discuss it with spoilers and everything. And then
Yeah,
yeah, so you go read it first, or better yet, watch the movie Arrival. By the way, speaking of movies, so last this is also a good discussion, because I think it's gonna be the first time, it's a very typical situation in like fantasy sci-fi, where if the piece is good enough, people
yeah,
from Hollywood usually flock to it to make a movie, right? And so it's gonna make a nice discussion on the movie material versus the written material. So last month, for the month of March, we talked about we touched a bit about comparing the manga media and the written short story media. So in here, we'll talk about the movie. But yeah, if you would like, in your opinion, Franz, if you're like, if someone will ask you, what should I go for first? Like, should I do the movie or should I do the short stories? What do you think?
I think going with the movie is better first because um if you read the story first, because the story contains more details than usually
Mm,
the stories contain more details than the movie. So yeah, it would spoil the movie if you
yeah.
see read it first. But I think if you really want to enjoy the piece, I think uh reading the reading the story first is better if you really want to enjoy it, because unfortunately the movie leaves a bad taste
Yeah, I think
after
yeah,
watching.
the movie, did some liberties to like
Yeah,
differentiate
too
itself
much,
with the
too much
yeah.
liberty.
Although I mean the movie, like, as an independent piece of film, I think
Yeah,
it's a pretty good movie. Like, on its
yeah,
own, like, if the story of your life short story does not exist, it's actually a pretty good movie. But yeah,
yeah,
with a story. So myself, it wasn't a choice on my end because I've read it, way before 2016 when it were, like I said, it was published in 1998, and I read it even before the movie came. So yeah, that's why. So I read the story first, and then the movie. But yeah, I've like in like discussion threads, I've seen people who like saw the movie first and then read the story, and then I think yeah, sometimes it's helpful because how do you say this, it helps put pictures on characters and events, whereas
yeah,
right, like when you read it first, like for example, for example, Harry Potter, right? Like when we were in high school, when we were reading that, we were like, it was also the time when the movies were coming out, right? Like the
yeah,
movies were coming out, and then the series was not yet done. And so when we you watch the movie and then you read it, it helps put pictures on the words that you have, like initially, when before you have it, you've read it, like, I couldn't picture, like, because when I read Harry Potter, the movie was already out. So every time I read it, I always picture it as Daniel Radcliffe, that guy, right? Moving in pictures. So I've been, how do you say this? I've been robbed of the opportunity to, how do you say this? Imagine for myself what these characters would look like, without the movie. And so yeah, that also happens now. Like I couldn't even remember like how I imagined, the heptapods or stuff like this were like before I watched the movie. And then yeah, when I watched the movie again and then I reread the novella, there is really that influence, like, okay, this is how the movie portrayed it. This is probably how it looked like, right? So yeah, even though yeah, sometimes it's nice to have, your own imagination paint a picture of what is happening. But yeah, that's one advantage if you watch the movie first. It helps you it helps you visualize things very nicely.
yeah.
uh,
Yeah, that's correct, Marbs. Because yeah, as you mentioned, there are different kinds of people. Like me, I there are some stories where I can't really picture out that
mm,
character or the
mhm.
setting and anything like that. For example, the Warcraft movie, though it
Mm,
was a flop, but when we played Warcraft before and World of Warcraft, but unfortunately the graphics during that time wasn't really
yeah, yeah.
awesome. But except for the cinematics was neat. But when that Warcraft movie came, though, it was really a bad adaptation. When I saw that scene of um, Stormwind City, though I've read the novel a couple of times, it was really more majestic than what I
Yeah.
envisioned it. And yeah, just like also in Lord of the Rings, the places like the Rivendell, the houses of the elves, they were
Mm,
much better than what I pictured. Especially if
yeah.
you haven't read those kinds of you haven't read or seen or had experience with those kinds of media I mean genre, it would be really hard to imagine those things as
Yes.
you read them. But if you grow older and read more, I think the picture becomes more vivid. So movies do help a lot
Yeah, I
also
know. Yeah.
forming
Also,
forming
it's an interesting discussion, Franz, on how to like. I would imagine, like when let's say J.K. Rowling was writing Harry Potter, watching the movies might have had some effect on her, right? And it will be like, so this is how they imagine, this is how the movie guys imagine this scenario or this setting to be. And so I don't know. Moving forward, maybe I should go towards that. I don't
yeah.
know.
I
So
think it may have, I'm not sure though on the Western authors because that's a common occurrence in manga.
yeah,
Like they
yes, yes,
do
exactly.
they
Yeah,
they
good
do
example. Yeah.
polls they
Mm.
do polls like if that character or the something isn't very popular, the editors would have them try changing
Yeah.
changing things which may not align with the author's
Yeah,
view.
it's very, yeah, if it's still ongoing, it becomes very malleable as opposed to things that are already done, like
Yeah,
Lord of the Rings, like it was already there, right? So you knew that like Tolkien wasn't at all influenced by the modern movies that we have. So yeah. But yeah, that's actually an interesting things to look at. But in any case, yeah, I think we should dive into, yeah. So what's the first thing that struck me about, yeah, the story of the your life, if you read it first, is the how do you say this, Franz, the structure, right? Like it
yeah,
alternates between, so for example, the very first paragraph is the main character. So like Francis said, the linguist, Dr. Louis Banks, recalling uh like how do you say this, remembering, quote unquote. But the weird thing is, the things that she's trying to remember is like from the future, and it's like glimpses of the different moments of the from the lives of her daughter. In the
yeah.
movie, the daughter is called Hannah. Now I can't recall if in the story
Anna.
they Hannah as well, right? Uh,
No,
in the movie, the
I'm
daughter
not
was
sure if
given the name Hannah. Yeah, I'm
the
not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure
I
in the
don't
book if the daughter was given a
I
name.
think it's in the book, but not in the movie.
Yeah. No, no, no. Because I've seen the movie more recent. So it's like in fact, in the movie they tried to explain, your name is Hannah because it's a palindrome or something like that. I think, yeah, that's
Ah,
something I couldn't recall from the book.
yeah, because
Yeah,
I saw the movie first.
yeah. So I'm trying to scan it very quickly. But yeah, it doesn't matter because, yeah, the movie did change a few names around. For example, I don't know
Yeah,
what's the reason, but the physicist in the book was named Gary Donnelly, but then in the movie he was named Ian. And
yeah,
then something that I really, I kind of like the name they gave to the two heptapods in the book, which was Raspberry and what was it, Flapper or something like that, Flapper.
yeah. I think the the one in the movie is more
Yes, like Abbott and
about and
Castellio or
Costello.
Costello or something. Like it's more
Costello.
serious.
It's not
Yeah.
serious because I think both are. I think they name both after the comedians Abbott and
Oh yeah,
Costello.
but I mean, Flapper and Raspberry was,
Yeah, it is fun,
I mean, yeah, maybe the movie people
but I
thought,
think
no, this can't be
they use
serious.
Abbott and Costello as a duo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, so I was saying, yeah, there was the nice thing is that it alternates between, so like Francis said, so you have this linguist that was called by the military to help interpret the aliens, what why they came, what they want. But then interspersed within this story of, how they eventually try to understand the language of the heptapod is a very nice so in our first episode, Franz, we talked about the egg and the second person perspective,
Yeah,
right? So in here, it was there, right? Like so you have like I think it's first person, right? The how do you say this, the main one is first person, but then as she every time she talks about her daughter from
yeah,
the future, it's a second person, and she's the you persona, she's referring to
yeah,
her daughter, right? Like
yeah.
you, I will remember you will be doing this, you will be doing that. But yeah, it's very fascinating. Like, yeah, what's your like So like Francis emphasized first contact, like usually people in some
Yeah,
classic sci-fi trope, people would usually jump at the action right away, right?
yeah,
Like,
they
oh,
skip
okay,
the communication phase.
exactly, like, okay, but how did we understand them in the first place? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the nice thing here is like that's one of the myth of the thing, right? Like, okay, we get a linguist, and of course they got a physicist, but yeah, we get our linguist and then try to understand, how would you approach their language and so on.
Mm,
But yeah, it's like so what's your opinions, Franz, about like the tech the like, how do you say this? Ted Chiang did not spare anything, right? When it comes
yeah.
to the technicalities of linguistics, right? Like,
I
so yeah.
I'm I think he didn't really go too deep on the linguistic side, but he hit on all the necessary things. He
Mm,
discussed all the necessary things there. Like, as for example, even as two kinds of people around the world when meeting,
yep.
we meeting first, we have different languages, different places, cultures. So one thing that I think, um we humans would we humans and even animals would understand immediately is because we live in the same world, so we can just
Mm,
relate to things, like point at it, then
yep.
we can just relate immediately at it, do the action, since many of our actions are kind of similar, so we can just understand. But what if an alien with, like
Yes.
like Ted also pointed out, that an alien may not have spoken language or written language, because they
Mm,
may either they don't talk, they don't have
yep.
eyes. So how would
Yeah,
you?
like the concept of like, even the concept of like forward or back, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's
mm,
in front, but the heptapods, it's there like
yeah, the
360 or
heptapods,
something.
360.
Yeah.
So how would you tell them that's forward or backward?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like that. This is also, that's why I said to at the beginning that sci-fi lovers would find this interesting, is because of the process of communication. Ted really uh, fleshed out this
Mm,
process, because aside from the results after communicating, I think this is the most crucial part when
mm,
meeting with an extraterrestrial, is when when during first contact, because we won't also, as he also mentioned in his work, we can't also assume that the aliens know things about
yeah.
us,
I
because
mean, yeah, in the first place, we can't even assume that, that their language would be sound based, right? Like that,
yeah,
because for us, that's the only language we know. It's sound. But then, yeah, of course, in here it's
sound
still
and
sound
written,
based. But it could be more, could have been more complicated than that. Yeah.
indeed, because yeah, we the aliens might have different set of senses, and
Mm, yep.
also I think he mentioned it in the middle part that the the heptapods, um it's unlike our language where it's phonetic, because their written language is very different from their spoken.
Yes, yes.
That's what I think
It's
Louis,
it's yeah, that's like I think she labeled it heptapod A and heptapod B.
yeah, that's what she pointed out, that she was having trouble with the spoken, because I think
Mm,
she mentioned that the heptapods do not like the spoken language.
mm,
They like their written better, because in spoken, you can't do things simultaneously, right? You can't
yes, yes.
utter two words at once, unless, like
Yeah. It's
like
it's inherently sequential. Yeah.
yeah, unless you're Krauser, where you can say 10 facts in 1 second.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, from DMC. D- yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, I'd like to go back to the structure. So since I've seen the movie first,
Mm.
compared to the story in the movie, I didn't know that it wasn't flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It,
It wasn't, I mean, at least at first, right? Like, towards the end you kind of appreciate that, okay, yeah, she's kind of able to like have some sort of communication or channel from the future or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
When
Mm.
I was watching it, I thought she was having flashbacks, but when I
Yeah, yeah.
read the book, it wasn't the case. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I didn't even think about that because yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, I read the book first, so I was like, when I saw it, okay, this was
Yeah.
her daughter from the future.
That was I think that's also something that I think that's something that the movie did better because
Hmm.
yeah, as I mentioned in about the language, uh the movie, similar to speech, you can't do two things at the same time. So I think
Hmm.
that's what
Hmm.
the movie did better in, because they didn't, since they were just showing
I Franz, I saw a very
showing
nice comment. Yeah, something along those lines. I saw a comment in Reddit that said something like the movie is the heptapad A to the, you know, to the
yeah,
written.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, oh, that's
Yeah, that's
awesome. Yeah.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
a great
Yep.
comparison.
Yep.
In So yeah, that's you in the movie. You're just shown the video about what she was. You wouldn't really know if she was remembering it or seeing it. As you mentioned ahead, what will happen
Hmm.
to her like that. So, but in the story, he clearly says that uh he's using the tenses, right? So you'd know when it happens. Unlike the
Yep.
movie, we're only
Yeah, yeah,
shown.
yeah. Exactly. The narration, yeah, the ten you the tenses does help. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's all for the structure. Yeah, we can
Yeah, I
proceed.
think yeah. The other thing that yeah, so you mentioned about hepta A and B. So the other thing that Lewis, the linguist, also emphasizes that. So it's like it's as if they were not wasting another channel for communication. Like so, like us,
Correct.
it would seem that our communication is redundant because our written language is exactly the same as the spoken language, and so like from their point of view, why waste a second channel? You know, and so yeah, they have this description about the aliens language being a two-dimensional where yeah there is no one-to-one correspondence between their spoken language and then their written one. It's entirely different, so that's why it's A and B. Yeah, but so now I'm wondering if there's like a written there's like a I don't know, a language that in a real world that is like that, where you know the the spoken one is different from you know what you would write.
No, I think I'm not sure if it was Gary or Lewis that pointed it out.
Mm,
Um, for the case, I think for the case of humans,
mm,
as humans, we started with oral. So I think
mm,
that's how we develop our language, that it's quite similar to our written languages, similar to our speech. Whereas I think the heptapods, I think that's what they Lewis understood it, is that the heptapods developed the written language first,
mm.
before their speech or like that. So I think that's the main difference between our own way of communication and also the heptapods.
Yeah. So yeah, also Franz, I just remember because when you said that Ted did not dive like very in depth into the linguistic side, but you know when I read the background, I think he spent like one of the reasons why you know like I mentioned he's not that prolific for this story alone before he even attempted writing it. He spent like 4 or 5 years studying linguistics just
Yeah,
so he can have you know just so he can have a main character that would sound like you know a linguist expert. So if you
expert.
can
Yeah,
imagine like 4 to 5 years, that's you know that's like taking a college course, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, he really flesh out Lewis well in this.
Mm, yep.
Yeah, at least he did well, other than some of written
Yeah.
experts there who only know a thing or two.
Yeah, this one, yeah, this you can really feel, the expertise of Dr. Louis Banks. But I think, yeah, let's go to the other very important aspect of the story is, I think, the idea of free will or determinism, right? Because that's the thing is that eventually they come to realize, well, of course, Gary, the physicist, and Louis, the linguist, that eventually they realize that even the way the aliens perceive time is very different, right? And so it's like the reason why they can write something that is already holistic and something that's not very linear is because they kind of like leave time, like they don't leave it the way that we do, that is like sequential. It's kind of like simultaneous or something like that. And so it's when Gary explained it, it's like writing with both your hands, and then meeting towards each other. And so in order for that to work, then you would already know what the final sentence is. You would already know what's the exact spacing that you will be using in order to do that, right? So the writing is something like that. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
it did
We
so it branched into a very nice discussion about free will and determinism, and the idea that if you already know what will happen, like, or if you already know what the future will be like, like, do you have the choice to change it, or something like that? Because, yeah, so what happened in the story is, as the linguist began to be able to be fluent with the language of the heptapods, she began thinking the way they do, right? And hence that's the explanation actually with the different flashbacks that we had, right? Like, so in the movie, yeah, eventually the movie also show it, like, towards the second half or something like that. Like, she began obtaining these, how do you say this, quote unquote
blueprints.
flashbacks from the future, or yeah, or something like that. And then eventually, yeah, after the, well, I don't know, yeah, in the movie, they have all this drama about, the world the world in conflict or something like that. But yeah, in the book, the aliens simply left, right? There was no like a
Yeah.
drama like that. But yeah, but in the end, yeah, Louis saw the future. And in fact, the tragic thing is, she saw, like her daughter, eventually she saw that at the age of 25 her daughter will eventually die, well, in the book, of some mountain climbing accident. Like, she knew what would happen exactly. And then, so the question was, knowing that it will lead to that, uh will that, does it still make sense to go through it or something? Yeah. So what do you think?
Yeah. I think this is something the movie did poorly because um in the movie I think they didn't really hint that they didn't explicitly hint that Louis fully understood the written
Mm.
language. I think what they did was they took her, then they have
Yeah.
Tapat, I think, did the Itachi thing, and they
Yeah,
gave her the knowledge.
flash to her some
Yeah,
image, yeah.
they gave her the knowledge, and then she finally understood that for the heptapods, time wasn't linear. It
Mm.
was they see it as a whole. So that this is the thing that the story did properly because as you mentioned, as she slowly develops or she slowly learns the language, she begins to think like the heptapod. So this is the thing that we should consider the most between Lewis and Gary. So
Mm.
in her flashbacks or flash forwards, she
Yep.
mentioned that Gary would eventually, by the way, Lewis and Gary, if after you read this,
uh,
uh, Lewis and Gary will be married.
they eventually, yeah, get together, yeah.
And that's their daughter, the one that we were talking about since the beginning.
Mm.
So they'll get married. So this is one of her flashbacks or flash forwards that Gary would eventually divorce her
Mm.
due to that incident that she knew her daughter will die.
Mm.
So this is the difference. I think this is what Ted Chiang wants us to see. So if we want that to answer that question about the free will, so if we are on Lewis shoes, if we think like the heptapods, I think the heptapods wouldn't change the outcome,
Mm.
because I think for them, free will, just like as you mentioned, it's the sum of all parts. You see it, you see it all, but I think the heptapods realize that there's you though you can struggle, but I think it will things would still happen, and I think it would cause more problems if they change how it was as they saw it whole. I
Mm-hmm.
think it
Yep.
would, because once I think it is like when you are writing, you've written already something, you try to change it. So I think it for them the writing, yeah, this is also something that we forgot. So there, with respect to the how heptapods view time and free will, it is also, this is also one of the great things Ted Chiang did. So the heptapods form of writing, they write it as you mentioned, uh in one stroke and then as a
Mm-hmm.
whole.
Yep.
So I think for the heptapods way of life, and since they see time like that as a whole, I think their behavior is also something related to how they write, because if they want to change something, for example, let's say we write a sentence in our own language, we write a sentence, we make a mistake or like that. Uh, we may make a mistake, or we would want to change it, so we can just cross out something and then continue it writing. That's how we do it, right? But for
Mm-hmm.
the
Yep. Yep. Yep.
heptapods, they write it as a whole. So if so they already know how to write that whole paragraph. So they barely make any mistakes. So if they want to change that midway, because this is something that also involves that discussion about the free will. So in
Mm.
free will, if you know something, for example, Louis knowing her daughter will die, if she changes something in that part, she would also need to radically change, because it's not it's very different in our linear way of seeing things.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because
Yep.
if
Yep.
we look at it in the heptapod's point of view, if you change something midway, you already know it. So that whole thing that you would write, you cannot form it already. You
Yeah.
would need to erase it all and go back, which they don't, though they know that the entirety result of the time, they cannot time travel, right?
Yep.
Ted didn't mention that they cannot time travel.
No.
So
No. Yeah. No.
that is something that I think the heptapods have already come to terms with, that even if they know things based on how they write, I think we can get their behavior that it is, I think it's massively more chaotic or more problematic to change what will happen as a whole, rather than
Yeah.
just let it go through. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
this I'm not sure if the law of entropy would have something to do with this, but I'm I don't think
Yeah.
that it works the same as the heptapods view it.
Yeah. But I think yeah, one of the nice things that Luis pointed out was that even though you know the future, like it like in some sense it will never like happen unless you act upon it or something like that. Like
Yeah,
even though,
yeah,
you already know, like I think, and in fact, in one of her flashbacks with her child, with her daughter, right? Like she was reading the Goldilocks story, and then she was like
Yeah.
inventing, you know, the stories. Like even instead of telling the original story, she was inventing some other plots to the child, and then the child, her kid was like, but that's not how the story goes. That's not how the story. And then she's like, if you already know how the story goes, then how come you still want to hear it? As she
Yeah.
said, how come, what's the point? And then the daughter said, because I want to hear it. Like I want to, how do you say this? She wants to see it play out or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The action needs to be done.
exactly, yes. Like something like, I think he also did like a, how do you say this, a analogy with some sort of, let's say, some rites, let's say, with, let's say, a priest or something like that, where you know what's gonna happen, but unless it's like it's been acted upon, then it didn't really happen, or something like that, right?
Unless they say it like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yes, or unless they act upon it. Yes.
Yeah.
Franz, let me come back very quickly. Let me just switch the light on. I think,
Sure.
yeah, I'm looking for the angle that can see my face. But yeah, I think I'm gonna be very quick. I can still hear you. I think we should also talk. I think thanks, Lovey. My wife switched on the light, so I think we're fine. Yeah. So one thing, yeah, one of the, well, of course, I'm biased because I'm a physicist. One of the things that I really love about the book was, Fermat's principle of least time.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
that I was so excited to see in the movie, but they they kind of they kind
Yeah,
of skipped it, and so I was
yeah,
like, where's
that's
my?
one thing also. It was a massive breakthrough in the story, right?
I mean, I love this. I love these
Yeah,
drawings. Like when
indeed.
when 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 he emphasized that, it's as if when light goes from one point to the next,
Yeah.
it always chooses the path of a least time. So, and then the way Gary talks about it, it's as if, so it's as if light already, went there,
No,
did it, and then, is this the correct path? No. Is this the correct path? No, no, it's this. This is the one that
yeah.
gives you least
And
time, something like that. So I was
the
waiting
light
for that in
went.
the movie, but yeah, they did that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Something
they
like,
did it.
and in fact, yeah, it's something that goes, the way, to the very first month that we talk about. It's something that I mentioned, France, where that's where the limitations of the audiobook is. So I don't know if the story of your life has an audiobook, but this is something that I mentioned before, something like this, like with diagrams and stuff. Like, I don't know how they would do this in an audiobook, right? Like you're narrating, and then it's like he picked up a knob on chalk and drew a diagram, and then I don't know how you would convey that on an
Maybe
audiobook.
they can include
Yeah, but
like
if they
from
include printed materials, then why not just read the book?
no, it's supplementary.
Yeah,
It
I
can,
mean,
they can
because
include
yeah, it's
attachment.
yeah, that thing really bothers me. Yeah, but I think, yeah, the other thing, France, that's lacking in the I mean, the one that they did, I'm curious to know your opinion, but one of the things that they did, the one I mentioned about the drama between, the different world powers having a conflict. I don't know, they like the short story, the original novella didn't need something like that, but I don't know, they
Yeah,
had to do it, Hollywood, right? But yeah,
yeah.
so was it something that you like in that story where they did that at the end,
No, I hated it.
right? Like the one where
It
you're
was so
like they really
stupid.
feed you, right? Like they really feed you to the audience. It's like the movie, like towards the end, it was like very nice, but then towards the end, they're like, no, you're all of you are dumb. You didn't get it. You see, she can see the
Yeah,
future or something like that. Like they didn't have to do that,
yeah, they
but
did.
yeah, it was like spoon fed to the audience, and yeah, it was like, I don't know. That was in the book, right? Like the Chinese guy, like, you talk
Yeah,
to me. That was weird. I was like, okay. But uh interestingly enough, France, for people who, I don't know about you, but people who saw the movie first and only saw the movie, they thought that was like one of the, most mind-blowing things ever. They were like, the twist was awesome, like yeah.
no, even when I watched the movie first, so I haven't read the story. So
Mm.
that time when that time when they decided to blow up the the communication room inside the ship, I said
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah, the soldiers, right? Yeah, that's like,
This
that
is
wasn't
so
and then in the movie they killed one of the head tapats, Abbott, right? Like in the
yeah,
book, Raspberry and Flapper were like alive and stuff.
Yeah, nothing happened to them.
Yeah, nothing happened to them. I think, yeah, like one of the movie was trying to emphasize was like, look, this alien, like these heptapods knew that Abbott was gonna die, but they went through with it or something. But yeah, they didn't have to do that,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, that was weird. Like I would
that
like,
that
but
also ruined it.
yeah, yeah, that for me, yeah, that one, and then yeah, the ending. I don't know why. Maybe in Hollywood they did something. We need some drama.
Of
We don't want
course.
it to be, because in the book, the alien just left, and then they were like, okay, they
Yeah,
didn't even know like why they came, right? Or
yeah,
right, it was like it was left a mystery. But then in the movie, the heptapod was like, we will need you in like 3,000 years or
yeah.
something like that.
They gave them blueprints for
So
something.
that's why we give you the gift or
Yeah,
something.
the
Yeah,
gift.
because we
Yeah.
need you to unite. Yeah, that was
And
yeah, that was weird. Yeah,
why? I said when they set up the explosives, I said, why?
yeah, I know. I did.
Yeah, but
Yeah, and
yeah,
then it's
it
like
would.
like
I
yeah.
think it would add the tension, or what's the lit
Yeah,
to
I
the
don't know. Maybe, yeah, maybe like some people, watching, they just need closure, be like, but what was the point? What was the point? And then, some people need that, right?
yeah,
And so I think, yeah, I just remember there's like, talking about first contact. There's this novel. Maybe we'll read it in the future, Brands, but there's this
yeah.
very interesting one I've read before. It's a novel called Roadside Picnic. It's written by two Russians called the Strugatsky brothers. And it's a
Mm,
very nice thing because so here we have like the first contact, alien contact, right? Sometimes there's also a sci-fi trope where the aliens are coming or something like that.
yeah.
The very interesting thing about Roadside Picnic is the aliens came, and then there was like nothing. Like they
They
weren't
didn't
interested with
know.
the humans, so they just like left some garbage and stuff on
Uh,
a certain area, and then people were trying so hard, to find meaning out of but why did they come? What and all these things, and then they're like, but what if like to them, like what if to these aliens were just like worms or something? Like
garbage
if you go
dump.
to the picnic, right? If you go to the
Yeah,
picnic and then like the earthworm and the ants, do you like,
yeah,
I came for the ants or the earthworm? Like what if we're just from the point of view of the aliens, we're just like that,
yeah,
and then they just come and then they just leave their trash and then they go away. It
yeah.
was very interesting. And then they were like, so it was very unique because when I read it's the first time I've seen something called after contact. The
Correct.
aliens came, we didn't even know that they came, and then they left, and then they left a bunch of weird stuff, and then people were
Yeah,
like trying to understand, what if they come back, why did they come, like are we, and then people were like, what if we're not that special? We're just like some roadside picnic, to some aliens. It's very interesting. Yeah, it's called, yeah,
yeah,
it's a roadside picnic.
yeah.
But
Maybe that.
yeah, in here it's kind of like that, right? Like
Yeah,
the aliens, although yeah, they wanted to communicate, but at the end of the day, they just like went out, like they just, and in fact, something in the book, right? They asked something like, give us something like some sort of trade or exchange gift or something like that.
blueprints. It was
Yeah,
blueprint.
and then they gave, and then the military was very angry because the aliens gave us something that we already know. Yeah, so yeah, it was yeah, so yeah, it was, yeah, interesting like that. But yeah, I think that's like in fact, yeah, if you read some of the how do you say this, short stories of Ted Chiang, that's like his expertise is that, he zooms into this a very specific concept, and then makes a very nice intricate, so in this case, Fermat's principle of least time, and then he
Yeah,
combined it, with this idea of linguistics and all this thing,
he did. He really
determinism,
did it
free
well.
will. Yeah, very very brilliant. I think, yeah, in the book, France, there's like he has like some story notes like at the end.
Yeah,
uh and so in here, yeah, he said something like, this story grew out of my interest in the variational principles of physics. I've found these principles fascinating ever since I first learned of them, but didn't know how to use them in a story until I saw a performance of, so he saw something. I saw the performance of Time Flies When You're Alive. Paul
mm,
links a one-man show about his wife's battle with breast cancer. And then he said, it occurred to me then that I might be able to use variational principles to tell a story about a person's response to the inevitable. Yeah, that's what he said. And then he said something like, he quoted Kurt Vonnegut. So this I haven't read, but I always hear of this Slaughterhouse 5. You've heard of this, Franz?
I haven't heard.
uh, by Kurt Vonnegut. So I saw someone said that, if you want more that looks something like this, Slaughterhouse 5 is like that. But in the 25th edition of Slaughterhouse 5 by Vonnegut, so Ted Chiang said that, Kurt Vonnegut quoted something like, Stephen Hawking found it tantalizing that we could not remember the future. So that was like one of the main theme, right, of his story of your life is this weird character that apparently can remember the future. But it's very
Oh,
nice what Kurt Vonnegut wrote afterwards. He said, "But remembering the future is child's play for me now. I know what will become of my helpless, trusting babies because they are grown ups now. I know how my closest friends will end up because so many of them are retired or dead now. To Stephen Hawking and all others younger than myself, I say, be patient. Your future will come to you and lie down at your feet like a dog who knows and loves you no matter what you are." So yeah, that was so I think yeah, that's something that we might invest or look at in the future.
yeah.
Slaughterhouse 5. But yeah, personally I haven't read that. Yeah. But that was yeah, that's a famous line, Franz, from Stephen Hawking. Why can't we remember our future? You know. And so yeah, Ted Chiang, gave us a character, what happens if you can, and then yeah, we have this story of your life. Yeah. But yeah, Franz, so like the story of your life. So are we in agreement that Ted Chiang means for me, I think Ted Chiang means the daughter, right? When he says story of your life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
it's the daughter.
yeah, because I think so there's no debate about that. There's like a very nice line here where she said something like when she got that ability or that quote unquote power to like see the future or recall how do you say this, like she can now recall the future. So there's like a nice phrase where she said, Louis Banks said something like, it is a period encompassing the rest of my life and the entirety of yours. So I think that was a very nice line. Uh because she was yeah, from her point of view, she kind of saw, until the end. She was like, she would live to outlive her daughter or something. So she saw the entirety of the story of her daughter's life, which was, I don't know, kind of sad. But I don't know if if you're a parent, would you opt for something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think no. The answer would be no, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think the main part we should really consider was if the point of view of Lewis, who has
Mm.
seen time like the heptapods, or Gary, who still, though he knows, but I think
Yeah,
he
but he
still hasn't
couldn't, yeah, he
fully.
couldn't comprehend it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is also one, I think, interesting question. Think as a scientist, yeah, I believe you know many things about time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Could, for example, if let's throw every moral ethics like that, if we create beings and teach them to do, let's say, influence them to follow the behaviors of the heptapod, would
Mm.
they really see time as a whole, or will it still be the same in our reality?
Yeah,
Like,
that's a very complex. So in fact, there are so right now it's not really my specialty anymore, but my
yeah.
advisor, Dr. Eric Calapon, he's an expert in time. And I recall like some experiments where they prepare, some sort of a wave function that can somehow affect the past, something like that. So they call this thing post selection or something like,
Mm-hmm.
you prepare, so you have like a wave function like towards a time uh towards the future, and then somehow you can like tweak that, and then it will affect like some wave function that you have in the past. It's a very weird. But yeah, this thing is when you talk about something very holistic, like an individual who can have some sort of it's almost superhuman, right?
Yeah.
That makes me remember. You've seen France? What do you call this? Watchmen. You heard of this thing, Watchmen? The one.
Yeah, I saw it, but it was a very long time ago.
Yeah, that was a movie. But you remember this character, Doctor Manhattan, right? The blue
Yeah,
guy,
the blue
the one
guy.
where the nuclear exploded on him. That's
Yeah.
exactly him. He right. That was like his background is he experiences time supposedly like simultaneously, like he's living
Ah.
at every moment or something like that, right? It
Mm.
was very weird. So it was like, yeah, like so now I remember, yeah, he's exactly like the heptapod, you know.
Yeah, that's why he's indestructible because he exists in all.
Yeah, it's like he exists in all. Yeah, it was very weird, and it was very hard. Like for him, it was like, it's very hard to explain to someone like you know, or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah, I
I
think
think yeah,
there was a dialogue between them that his teammates told him that he wouldn't. I think maybe it was his wife or his teammates that he wouldn't understand because he's basically a god.
yeah, something like that. Yes, yes. Doctor Manhattan. Yes, that's very interesting. Maybe we can. That's also sci-fi as well. It's like I think it was a comics initially, and then in fact the movie so far, even until now, it's still my favorite superhero movie. Watchmen. It was. I think it was very good. Yeah, that was like the height of. I forgot his name now. Who's this director who's doing the a bunch of DC movies? That was like I think that was like the height of his career when he
Mhm.
directed the Watchmen. After that, it's downhill from there.
Neither.
Yeah, exactly. The Schneider Cut. Yeah, that's the guy, the one who did the Justice League. Yeah, I think he did the
Batman.
Watchmen movie. It was very good. And then especially the because there's like the he's known for this. Like he has like the movie, but then he has like an uncut version that is longer. The
Mhm.
Snyder Cut. Yeah, the uncut version of Watchmen was very good. It was like 3 hours plus. Yeah, but yeah, that
Oh.
character, Dr. Manhattan, was very interesting. So yeah, kind of like good thing I remember. Yeah, he's kind of like the heptapod, something like that. Like he can experience. But of course, he didn't have his own set of handwriting and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
that's
no,
also
because he was human to begin with, and then he
yeah.
became like that when the nuclear thing happened to him. But yeah,
Yeah, indeed.
so
That's also interesting in if we base it here in Ted Chiang's Heptapod,
mm, yeah, but
why is
yeah,
his speech still the same as he was human? So like
mm,
that. But
yep,
I
yep.
think how how he how Dr. Manhattan perceives the time or how the heptapod perceives the time is different.
Mm, yep, yep. Yeah, that was and then I think because heptapod like since the beginning they're like they're like a different entity altogether. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very but yeah that's the closest I can think of is Doctor Manhattan of Watchmen. Yeah. Good thing I kind of want to watch Watchmen again. The uncut the sni-
3 hours.
the the Snyder cut. Yeah. But yeah, I think yeah. But by the way, yeah. So like I mentioned, so speaking of directors, so the reason why, like I said, Arrival, on its own is a good film is because the guy who did this is actually also the director. I think his name is Dennis something. He also did the Blade Runner 2049. Like there was like an old Blade Runner movie, France, right? The one with
Yeah,
I think it
yeah.
was Harrison Ford or something,
Yeah,
if
it
I'm not
was
mistaken.
Harrison
Or and
Ford.
then there's this new one which is 2049. He did that, and he also did this very big sci-fi thing which is Dune, the
Oh,
Dune,
the
and then
recent
the Dune
one.
Part 2 which is coming I think this year is
Like,
also by that director of Arrival. So
mhm.
yeah, he has a very good, how do you say this? He has a very nice uh like filmography under his belt.
Yeah, everything before the conflict that's well executed.
Yeah, before everything was until the bombing of
The
the
bomb.
heptapod. Yeah, it was that was like they how do you say this? That's the point where they diverge from the material. But yeah, I think I don't know what Ted Chiang even thinks of the movie. I have to look it up. I didn't look at it like what he thought. Ted Chiang, what do you think of the movie? I think yeah, I did I didn't check this. Yeah, but I think yeah, I'm so excited, for yeah, Ted Chiang. He really writes very nice stuff. So maybe yeah, in the future, France, uh, if we run out of some other authors, we can see some of his other stories are really
Yeah.
so fascinating. Like I read this one and then the other one, Exhalation. Like it has like you mentioned something about entropy, right? Like
Yeah.
it has like the it has like the best how do you say this? Like he took what the consequence of entropy and
Entropy.
eventually things go to maximum disorder, right? He
Mm-hmm.
took that like to the maximum. Like what would happen to a civilization that would reach that point where it will reach the point where there can never be like everything is already disordered. There can never be more. And then that's the title story. Exhalation.
Oh,
It's very good. I'm
mm,
like, man, this
it's
guy,
very
I'm like,
interesting.
this guy is good. Yeah, this
Yeah.
guy Ted Chiang. That's the only gripe. My only gripe about him is he's not as prolific, but yeah, I think that's kind
Yeah.
of
I
well, we can
think
say that's his technique. That's his secret ingredient why he
it's
comes
worth
up
it.
with this. Yeah, it's very unique story. So I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully the next one won't be as because the gap between the first collection and the second is like 17 years. It's
Wow.
2002 and then this is 2002. This is 2019, which is insane.
Yeah. We need
Yeah.
we
So
need a way to create cyber brains.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
So
he's
that we
very,
can
but his stories are very like, for example, France. Let me show you the first one. I think you'll be interested in this. You know the Tower of Babylon like story or something, right? In the like the
yeah,
biblical thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
biblical.
his first story, Tower of Babylon, is a retelling of that with a sci-fi twist.
Oh.
It's very mind fuck. Like what the yeah. So maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe one of these days we said something like, we'll read. How do you say this? We'll read a novel. Maybe instead, maybe we can go for a collection first. One of these
Yeah, I think that's
future
good.
episodes. Like instead of a one full novel, maybe we can look at let's read this collection by this guy, and then we can have some many sampling of his works. Yeah. But I think, yeah, with that, do you have anything else to add, Franz, with the discussion of our story of your life by Ted Chiang?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, mm, my only comment was, yeah, Ted Chiang really, yeah, we started with the egg. The egg was a very great
Yep.
mind fuck.
Yep.
The I think having these new perspectives would also, aside from being fun, it also makes you
I know.
think
Yes.
more. What
Yes.
if something like this? Yeah, what if we can indeed that? Yeah, that was valid. And also as you mentioned, Ted also based this concept of the heptapods and Lewis knowing time as a whole and their
Yes.
aside from the free will and like that. It's very interesting that it came from the Fermat's principle, right? Like I think
Yes.
you
Yeah.
mentioned
Although,
of
yeah, he
how.
did have a yeah. I think yeah, it's nice that you pointed that out because I think he did have a caveat. Well, so the way he explained the Fermas in the story
Mhm.
is very classical. It's like he really baited you to think that light can see the future or something like that. But
Yeah,
there's like an explanation in quantum mechanics that you don't have to go there. That so light can see the future. So I think he said it here, like in this paragraph, right? He said,
yeah.
maybe I can read it
That,
in here. He said, for those interested in physics, I should note that the story's discussion of Fermat's principle of least time omits all mention of its quantum mechanical underpinnings. The QM
mm,
formulation is interesting in its own way, but I prefer the metaphoric possibilities of the classical version. You know, but I think yeah, the way and that's why every time I teach this, to my students when I reach a Fermat's principle, that's the first thing I copy essentially Ted Chiang's interpretation. I bait students into thinking, so light can it's as if light already went there because how come it was able to find the shortest path, right? Like
yeah, he knows
it's
that
like
it will.
okay, do I do this? Okay, no, wrong. This is it. right? So I essentially copied Ten Chang's way of pointing it out, and yeah, it's very interesting to the students. And then I tell them, actually, it's not like that. Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Yep.
trap.
Yeah, it's a trap, but I mean it's a very nice way to look at it, right? Like I mean when Ferma introduced that principle, for sure he didn't have quantum mechanics during that time, so maybe
Yeah.
he would have thought along those lines, right? Like so light, that's just a very weird behavior, like trying
Mhm.
to in this case minimize the time it takes to go from one point to the next point. Yeah. So yeah, very very fascinating. Yeah, that's what I like about Ted Chiang is he focuses on a very specific scientific principle, and then
Yeah.
writes an entire idea around it, which is that's why like people say that he's one of the more accomplished modern hard science fiction writer, because he really dives into, I read like one of the things, like for example, I read some well I read some works in like Filipino literature who attempts science fiction. It's always like one of the things I don't like about it. It always leans towards the dramatic or the metaphorical. So there's this thing that writes about the Doppler effect, but instead of diving into the actual explanation, they just use it as an analogy.
Yeah.
But it's like life, something. So it's like it's not. But Ted Chiang, he really understood the principle, and then the way he applies there's no bullshit. It's
Correct.
like
Yeah.
yeah.
The
So
way the way he also devised the writing of the heptapods
yep.
and based it in the Fermat's principle. It's
Mhm.
brilliant. It's really
I know it's
well.
yeah.
Yeah. How would you? We've seen many science fiction already about aliens, but no one most most of their language seems to just be the rudimentary script,
Mhm.
symbols, and speech. I think it's more based on animals if it's not compatible with humans. Like
Yep, yep.
uh there could be, like as they mentioned, silica based life forms that
Mm.
wouldn't know
Yes,
how to
yes.
write or speak. So they well, it's in nature now that there are some animals that speak through electricity, like electric
Mhm.
eels and something.
Yep,
There
yep, yep.
there are also, like, plants communicate via chemicals like that. So yeah, it's really, I haven't seen those done by other authors on science fiction, like, but indeed this how Ted did First Contact is one of the greatest things I've
No,
ever
yeah, it's
seen.
amazing. Yeah. First, yeah, yeah. It's not your typical, sci-fi trope. But I think, yeah. I mean, to the defense of the initial people who wrote things like that. I
Yeah,
mean, it's like the
it's
most
hard.
obvious thing that if you want to write like some sort of exciting science fiction, I think yeah, it takes a modern sensibilities to do something like this. Like even like myself during that time, if I wanted to be famous, I would write about the action and there are aliens. And in fact, the way they picture aliens in the classic sci-fi, right?
Yeah,
It's very human like, right? Like there's a head
correct.
and then there's like limbs and then it's still human, like
Yeah,
what is this?
humanoid.
Yeah. Yeah,
The
yeah, exactly. Very
Martian.
humanoid, or if not reptilian, right? Like
Yeah,
standing lizards with it's still very it's not there's nothing alien about it. It's so like I've
or
seen this before. Yeah. But
or
in here, yeah,
sluggish
yeah, you
like
can argue that
Jabba the
you
Hutt.
can argue that the heptapod looks like the octopus and stuff, but the point is, the way they think and then the way they
Yeah,
write, it's like that's the alien stuff.
yeah, their
That's where
behavior.
that's where Ted Chiang, like really perfected it. Yeah. But I think yeah, that would be interesting, Franz. Maybe we can read the rest of the stories here. This is fairly short. I think it's only like 250 pages or so, 250 pages even. And there are like two, four, six. There are like eight short stories here, and then we've already read one of the longest, which is a story of your life because it's a
Mhm.
novella. The rest are actually shorter, right? So
Yeah,
then we can have a sampling of why. And yeah, the nice thing I like about this is he has like story notes at the end. Like he talks about how why he wrote that story and all these things. Maybe well, not next month, maybe in the next round of our sci-fi, right? Because next month
Yeah.
we're gonna do fantasy and then horror. So we're talking maybe, so May technically is already the fantasy month, right? So
Fantasy.
and then June would be the horror, right? Because this is supposed to be April, right? And so
Yeah.
maybe July, France, what do you think? Maybe July we can do, this whole collection. What do you think? Uh,
Yeah, that's doable. But for June, we won't go through with the with the
I think
Storm Archives,
what's this?
the Storm what was that? The Storm.
Stormlight Archives. Yeah, maybe I think we can maybe before we dive to a novel first. When what's the nice yeah, because Stormlight Archive is it's a tome.
Yeah,
It's like 2,000 pages, man. The book one alone
maybe
is huh?
maybe we can do it like
Ha,
an anniversary thing.
maybe or maybe in the next fantasy, let me see. So today's April, May is the fantasy, right? So and then
Mm.
June is horror. No, sorry, yeah. May is fantasy, June is horror, and then July is sci-fi again. So it's this. So
Yeah.
like, are you're saying August? You think we can do it August? Well, for me, yeah, but I do have to reread it because it's very dense. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing is, I've read it already, so I don't know if you can like, you think you can finish it by August, and then if we'll
Mm,
also be doing this, what do you think?
I don't think
Uh,
maybe we can do it as an anniversary thing.
Or maybe we can do it like maybe I don't know, December or something. Then we can do like an in person, because right now we're doing Zoom, right? But like December we go home for Christmas break and all these things. Maybe we can do an in person conversation about Stormlight Archive. I think that would be nice. So it's like that would be our like, how do you say this? The big goal would be to finish book one of Stormlight Archive maybe towards December, or what do you think?
Yeah, we can. Let me check.
I think yeah, December, and then leading to that, well, of course, if we plan July, the short stories of Ted Chiang. But I think yeah, that for the next month, France, it's gonna be short. It's the fantasy one, but I'm thinking it's yet another Asian guy, and
Mm-hmm.
it's this thing called the Paper Menagerie. It's by Ken Liu. Let me
Mm-hmm.
show the cover. It's the cover is also the title. The title of the collection is the Paper Menagerie, but this is just this is a shorter uh uh short story. The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu. So it's it's about this kid who has this ability to, he creates like some sort of origami and then they come alive. It's it's
Ah,
it's it's very nice. Yeah, it's fantasy. It's a bit urban fantasy or something, but it's by
yeah.
Ken Liu,
I think
and
it's
yeah.
based on Myoji. I think Japanese shamans they have things like that paper dance.
The yeah. The one that, the one that looks like origami, right? That moves or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think yeah, if I'm not mistaken, no, I think I'm very sure that yeah, Ken Liu is Chinese. And yeah,
Yeah.
this is the one.
But I
The
think
Paper Menagerie.
they have similar things like that in China because um Taoism is basically based from Chinese
Yeah.
divination.
This guy also has some very interesting, but unlike Ted Chiang, he's like a mixture. So some is sci-fi, some is fantasy, whereas Ted Chiang is, hardcore sci-fi. But yeah, but it's yeah, now I'm thinking he also has another interesting one, which is, but I think yeah, we can go Paper Menagerie first. But he has like, I haven't read all the stories here, but I do recall this short story is also good. Mono no Aware.
Mm.
Look at the introduction. The world is shaped like the kanji for umbrella, right? Something like that.
Mm.
So it's called Mono no, yeah, but I think yeah, we can go how do you say this? We can go Paper Menagerie first because it's a bit it's I'm pretty sure it's a more fantasy-ish, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
So
we
and this
can
is shorter as
do.
well. So if we can, like, I'm pretty sure we can read, if we do it again like towards the end of May, that we can exert this. This is fairly short. That's why I chose this, because the next one will be soon. The May edition of Book Lovers Club, so that's shorter.
Yeah, I think December would be fine for the
For the
storm.
Stormlight Archive. Okay, I see. So I think, yeah, we do that. So July. So the plan is July is stories of your life collection. Of course, June is a horror, so we'll still
Or
think about that for the next one. But the next upcoming one is a paper menagerie, and then on December, yeah, this is gonna be a huge project because currently there are four books in the Stormlight Archive series. But yeah, it's probably my favorite, fantasy series that I've read. It's so awesome. So I think the book one is called the Way of Kings. That's the one. That's the one that we're gonna be reading. Uh, in how do you say this, for December? It's uh, it's just amazing. I have a hard copy. Maybe I'll bring my hard copy. It's in Dumaguete. We're going home to Dumaguete actually, like towards the end of May, but like for just one day because we have like colleagues that have a wedding in Bohol, and we just
oh
passed by Dumaguete very quickly. My hard copy of Stormlight Archive is there, so maybe I'll get it.
yeah,
So
you
that
can
because I love with fantasy, I like reading it on a physical copy because you always refer to the map, right? And
yeah
then in the glossary and stuff. If it's a Kindle, it's so hard because like okay, let me go to the first page, look at the map, and then let me go to the.
appendix.
If it's written, it's very easy. You just do this, you just flip back and forth. But yeah, this is amazing, man. The Way of Kings,
Yeah.
the Way of Kings. This is so good. Yeah, I mean, this is it's beyond epic. So I think, yeah, I'll be very excited, yeah, to talk about that. Uh, I think, yeah, my wife read the first novel, and she also loved it, but I think, yeah, she didn't continue because yeah, she has this, she wants a certain couple pairing to eventually, but then she learned that the two of them will not be together, and she
Yeah,
stopped, like, okay, forget about it.
I think that's
But
normal.
it's very good. Yes, yeah.
I
So
even stopped watching Game of Thrones after certain
yeah,
someone died.
but yeah, Game of Thrones. The problem with Game of Thrones, well, Stormlight Archive is not yet done, but
Yeah.
Brandon Sanderson is insanely prolific. I'm pretty confident, barring some unfortunate
Hmm.
circumstances, but I'm pretty sure he can finish this. I think his plan is like there will be 10 of these novels, and then he's gonna be writing very quickly the first five, and then after the fifth, there's gonna be like a hiatus period. He goes back to
Mm,
his other series, and then he will go back to book six and onwards. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for that. So I think, yeah, so again, just to reiterate, if you want to follow us for the month of May, so this one, the discussion of Story of Your Life is April 2023. For the month of May, we'll do The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu. And then for the month of June, we'll still decide it's gonna be horror again. And then July, it's gonna be the sci-fi collection of Ted Chiang, Stories of Your Life and Others. And then
yeah.
come December, we're gonna do the Stormlight Archive. Yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, it's gonna be very long because it's an insanely dense novel, but ah, it's very good.
It's very good.
Yes, it's very good. Yes, yeah.
It's for sure.
So I think, yeah, with that, I think we're good. So I'll see you. I'm not sure, Franz. Yeah, maybe if we can't make it like towards end of May, maybe we'll do it again first week of June because, like I said, we're gonna be busy on the last few days of May because we're gonna be like
Yeah.
in Bohol and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
um towards the end of June. I mean and uh first week of June would be good.
yeah, maybe, yeah, like the weekend of June 3 or 4, something like that
Yeah.
would be fine. Yeah. Okay. So I
Yep.
think, yeah, now, yeah, after this, now that we mentioned the Watchmen, so now I want to watch Watchmen again. But yeah, so that's it, guys. So again, if you haven't read it, or if you don't want, just watch the movie. The movie is still serviceable, because it
Yeah.
still contains
The
the gist of the story. So yeah,
Yep.
I think it will still be fine with that. So yeah. So I'm also excited to discuss, yeah, some of his other works. I would argue that this other thing here, liking what you see, a documentary. This is
Mm.
also, I would argue that this also rivals, Story of Your Life. This is this stuck with me. This is amazing. Liking what you see, a documentary. Yeah. But yeah, with that, so I'll see you, Franz, next in the next episode. First, maybe June 3 or 4 or something.
Yep.
For the discussion of Ken Liu's paper menagerie. Wait a minute. Maybe I think I'm confident that you're gonna find it, Franz, right? But let us search very quickly. If it's easy. Yeah, I googled it and I think it came out right away. Yeah, just in case, yeah, I'm gonna send here, Franz, in the chat.
Yep.
There's like a link that I saw, and then I think, yeah, this is the one. Yeah, so it's fairly short. Yes. So that, yeah, we will have time to read the two big ones, the collection and the Stormlight Archive. Okay? So with that, thank you, Francis, for your time, and I'll see you again for next month's Book Lovers Club with Ken Liu's Paper Menagerie. Okay?
Yeah.
Franz, all right. Thanks, Franz. I'll see you next time. Okay?
Mm.
Let me end the recording here in 3, 2, 1, stop.